Imagine a life where everything you once believed about yourself begins to fall apart. The identity you built, the people you trusted, and the version of yourself you worked so hard to maintain slowly starts to dissolve. It feels terrifying, like you are losing yourself completely. But what if this is not your destruction? What if this is your rebirth? What if the breaking you are experiencing right now is not here to end you, but to free you from a version of yourself that was never truly you? The Buddha taught that true transformation does not begin when you become something new. It begins the moment you finally have the courage to let go of what you are not. The old you must end before the new you can be born. Most people dream of becoming a new version of themselves. They want to become calmer, stronger, more confident, and more peaceful inside. But at the same time, they continue holding on to the old version of themselves that was created by pain, fear, rejection, and disappointment. They continue thinking the same thoughts, reacting the same way, and believing the same negative stories about themselves. The Buddha taught that suffering does not come from life itself, but from attachment. And one of the deepest attachments is the attachment to your old identity. You become attached to the idea of who you think you are. Even if that version of you is built on past wounds, you hold on to old memories where you were hurt, old labels people gave you, and old emotional patterns like fear, insecurity, or self-doubt. These patterns feel familiar, so the mind continues to return to them even when they are slowly destroying your peace. Transformation does not begin when you simply try to add new habits or force yourself to change on the outside. True transformation begins when you stop feeding the old version of yourself. It begins when you allow the old mindset, the old emotional reactions, and the old beliefs to slowly fade away. Just like a tree cannot grow new leaves while holding on to the dead ones, you cannot become a new person while still clinging to the past. This process feels uncomfortable because the mind is afraid of change. The mind prefers what is familiar, even if it brings suffering, because familiarity creates the illusion of safety. The unknown feels scary, even when it contains your peace, your freedom, and your growth. The Buddha explained that clinging to what no longer serves you keeps you trapped in the same cycle of suffering. The version of you that was created in pain cannot guide you into peace. The version of you that was shaped by fear cannot lead you into confidence. If you continue protecting your old identity, you will continue repeating the same emotional patterns, attracting the same experiences, and feeling the same inner emptiness. Nothing will change until you allow the old version of yourself to end. Letting go of your old self does not mean you are destroying yourself. It means you are removing the layers of pain and illusion that were never your true nature. Underneath all the fear, doubt, and emotional wounds, there is a deeper version of you that is naturally calm, aware, and peaceful. The moment you stop holding on to who you used to be, you begin to reconnect with who you truly are. You begin to respond differently. You begin to think differently. You begin to see yourself differently. True transformation begins quietly. It begins the moment you stop looking backward and stop identifying yourself with your past. It begins the moment you accept that the old version of you has completed its purpose, and now it is time to allow a new version of you to be born. 2. Pain is not your enemy. It is your awakening. Most people believe that pain is something bad that should never happen. When pain enters their life, they immediately try to escape it, ignore it, or distract themselves from it. They believe pain is a sign that something is wrong with them, or that life is being unfair to them. But the Buddha taught something very different. He taught that pain is not your enemy. Pain is a messenger. Pain is a signal that something inside you needs to change, grow, or awaken. Pain often appears when you are holding on to something that is no longer meant for you. It may be a relationship that no longer aligns with your peace, a situation that no longer supports your growth, or a belief about yourself that is no longer true. Pain creates discomfort, so you can no longer remain asleep inside unhealthy patterns. It forces you to look deeper. It forces you to question your life, your choices, and your direction. Without pain, most people would never change. They would remain stuck in the same habits, the same mindset, and the same emotional cycles for their entire life. Pain breaks the illusion of comfort. It removes the false sense of security you created around things that were never permanent. It opens your eyes to reality. This is why some of the strongest, wisest, and most peaceful people are those who have suffered deeply. Their pain forced them to awaken. Their pain forced them to grow beyond the version of themselves that was weak, unaware, and dependent. The Buddha himself experienced suffering when he saw sickness, old age, and death. That pain became the reason he began searching for truth. That pain led him to enlightenment. If he had never experienced suffering, he may have remained asleep in comfort forever. This shows that pain is not here to destroy you. Pain is here to guide you. Pain is also a process of breaking your ego. The ego creates illusions about control, permanence, and identity. It makes you believe that certain things must stay the same for you to feel safe. But pain breaks those illusions. It shows you that everything in life is temporary. It teaches you to stop depending on external things for your inner peace. When you stop running away from pain and start observing it with awareness, something powerful happens. Pain begins to lose its control over you. Instead of becoming weaker, you become stronger. Instead of becoming bitter, you become wiser. Instead of becoming lost, you become more aware of yourself. Pain is not the end of your story. Pain is the beginning of your awakening. 3. Attachment is the root of your suffering. The Buddha taught that the main reason people suffer is not because of what happens to them, but because of what they refuse to let go of. This is called attachment. Attachment is when you hold on to people, situations, emotions, or identities and believe that you cannot be okay without them. You begin to depend on them for your happiness, your peace, and your sense of self. And when those things change, leave, or end, you feel broken inside. Attachment creates the illusion that something external is permanent. You believe certain people will always stay in your life. You believe certain moments will last forever. You believe the version of yourself you are today will always remain the same. But reality does not work that way. Everything in life changes. People change, circumstances change, emotions change. Even you are changing every single day. This is the natural law of impermanence that the Buddha explained. Suffering begins when you resist this truth. You try to hold on to what is already changing. You try to control what cannot be controlled. For example, you may hold on to someone who no longer chooses you. Even when they distance themselves, your mind keeps hoping they will return. This creates emotional pain, not because they left, but because you were attached to their presence. Or you may hold on to an old version of your life that no longer exists, and this prevents you from accepting the present moment. Attachment also happens with identity. You become attached to who you think you are. You may see yourself as someone who was hurt, rejected, or betrayed. You repeat this story in your mind again and again, and it becomes part of your identity. Even when life gives you opportunities to move forward, you remain emotionally connected to your past pain. The Buddha taught that freedom begins when attachment ends. This does not mean you stop loving people or caring about life. It means you stop depending on external things for your inner peace. You begin to understand that your peace comes from within, not from people, not from outcomes, and not from circumstances. When you release attachment, you stop fearing loss so deeply. You stop chasing things that are not meant for you. You stop forcing situations that do not align with your growth. Instead, you begin to trust the natural flow of life. You allow things to come and go without losing yourself. Letting go of attachment does not make you empty. It makes you free. 4. Your breakdown is preparing your rebuild. There are moments in life when everything you once depended on begins to fall apart. The plans you carefully created stop working. The people you trusted begin to leave. The identity you built over many years no longer feels real. In those moments, it can feel like life is destroying you. You may feel confused, lost, and emotionally exhausted. You may ask yourself why everything is happening at once. But the Buddha taught that these moments of breakdown are not punishments. They are moments of deep transformation. A breakdown happens when the old foundation of your life is no longer strong enough to support your growth. The beliefs, attachments, and patterns that once defined you begin to collapse because they can no longer carry you forward. This process feels painful because the mind always seeks stability and certainty. When stability disappears, fear appears. But this destruction is not meaningless. It is creating space for something new to be built. Imagine trying to build a strong new house on a weak and damaged foundation. it would not last. In the same way, your life cannot grow into something stronger if it is built on old fears, unhealthy attachments, and limiting beliefs. Sometimes life must remove what is weak so that something stronger can take its place. This removal may come in the form of loss, rejection, failure, or unexpected change. At first, it feels like everything is being taken from you, but in reality, life is clearing the path for your rebuilding. The Buddha explained that suffering often arises when illusions are broken. You may have believed certain people would always stay, certain paths would always work, or certain identities would always define you. When those illusions break, it feels like losing part of yourself. But what you are really losing are the false structures that were preventing your true self from emerging. Your breakdown is also a moment of awakening. It forces you to stop living on autopilot. It forces you to reflect, to question, and to become aware of your inner world. You begin to see your patterns more clearly. You begin to understand what was helping you grow and what was holding you back. This awareness becomes the first step of rebuilding yourself in a stronger and more conscious way. The moment everything falls apart is often the moment you begin rebuilding yourself with greater awareness, strength, and truth. Your breakdown is not your end. It is the beginning of your true transformation. 5. Stop searching outside. Everything begins within. Most people believe that rebuilding themselves requires something external. They believe they need a new environment, new people, new opportunities, or a completely different life in order to finally feel peaceful and complete. They think that if they move to a new place, find the right relationship, earn more money, or receive more respect from others, then they will finally feel whole inside. But the Buddha taught that this belief is one of the greatest illusions that keeps people trapped in suffering. He taught that true peace and true transformation do not come from changing the outside world. They come from understanding and transforming the inner world. The outside world is always changing. People come and go, situations rise and fall, success and failure move like waves. If your peace depends on these external things, your peace will always be unstable. One day you will feel happy when things go your way, and the next day you will feel broken when things change. This creates a cycle where your emotional state is controlled by circumstances instead of your awareness. The Buddha taught that lasting peace can never be found in something that is temporary. It can only be found in something that remains steady, and that steady place exists within you. Many people spend years searching for themselves in the approval of others. They try to rebuild themselves by becoming who others expect them to be. They seek validation, attention, and acceptance, hoping it will fill the emptiness they feel inside. But even when they receive that validation, the feeling does not last. The emptiness returns because external approval can never replace internal understanding. The more you depend on others to define your worth, the more disconnected you become from your true self. The Buddha taught that everything begins with awareness. Awareness is the ability to observe your thoughts, your emotions, and your reactions without becoming controlled by them. When you begin to observe your mind, you start to see that many of your thoughts are not truth. They are simply patterns created by your past experiences. Thoughts like "I am not enough, I am broken," or "I cannot change" are not facts. They are learned beliefs that you have repeated so many times that they feel real. But once you become aware of them, you begin to see that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. This realization changes everything. You begin to understand that your identity is not fixed. You are not limited by your past. You are not defined by your mistakes. You are not trapped by old emotional wounds. You have the ability to observe these things, and through observation, you begin to loosen their control over you. Instead of reacting automatically, you begin to respond consciously. Instead of being controlled by fear, you begin to act from awareness. Rebuilding yourself from within also means learning to be comfortable with yourself. Many people avoid silence because silence forces them to face their inner world. They distract themselves with constant noise, constant activity, and constant stimulation so they do not have to confront their thoughts and emotions. But the Buddha taught that silence is where transformation begins. In silence, you begin to see clearly. In silence, you begin to reconnect with yourself. In silence, You begin to discover that your peace was never lost. It was only covered by distraction and attachment. When you stop searching outside and begin looking within, you start to rebuild yourself on a stronger foundation. Your confidence no longer depends on others. Your peace no longer depends on circumstances. Your sense of self no longer depends on external validation. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to understand yourself. You begin to feel whole, not because of what you have, but because of what you have realized. The Buddha taught that you are both the problem and the solution. The suffering you experience begins in the mind, but so does your freedom. The moment you stop searching for yourself in the outside world and begin understanding yourself from within, you take the first true step toward inner transformation. 6. Letting go creates space for your true self. One of the deepest truths the Buddha taught is that you cannot fill a space that is already full. If your mind is full of past pain, regret, anger, and emotional attachment, there is no space for peace to enter. If your heart is still holding on to what hurt you, what left you, or what broke you, you will continue to carry that emotional weight everywhere you go. Many people want a new life, but they are still mentally living in the old one. They are still replaying old conversations, still remembering old betrayals, still wishing things had turned out differently. Without realizing it, they are carrying the past into every present moment. Letting go is not about forgetting what happened. It is about releasing the emotional grip it has on you. It is about freeing your mind from constantly returning to what no longer exists. The Buddha taught that suffering continues not because of the event itself, but because of your attachment to the memory of the event. The moment has already passed, but the mind keeps reliving it again and again. This creates a cycle where the past continues to control your present emotional state. Many people hold on because they believe letting go means losing something important. They believe that holding on gives them control, identity, or emotional security. But in reality, holding on only keeps them trapped. It keeps their mind tied to something that no longer serves their growth. It keeps their energy focused on what is gone instead of what is possible. Letting go is not losing control. Letting go is reclaiming control over your own mind and your own peace. The Buddha explained that your true nature is already peaceful, already whole, and already complete. But this true nature becomes hidden under layers of attachment, fear, and emotional pain. These layers act like clouds covering the sky. The sky itself is always clear, but the clouds make it appear dark. In the same way, your true self is always present, but attachment hides it. When you let go of what you are holding, these clouds begin to disappear. You begin to reconnect with the peace that was always within you. Letting go also creates mental clarity. When you are no longer emotionally attached to the past, your mind becomes lighter. You begin to see life more clearly. You begin to make decisions from awareness instead of emotional reaction. You stop reacting from old wounds and start responding from present awareness. This allows you to move forward without being controlled by what happened before. Many people are afraid to let go because they do not know who they will be without their pain. Pain becomes part of their identity. They begin to define themselves by what they have suffered. But the Buddha taught that your pain is not your identity. It was only an experience, not your essence. When you let go of pain, you do not lose yourself. You discover yourself. Letting go is also an act of trust. It is trusting that life is not taking something from you without reason. It is trusting that what leaves your life creates space for something new to enter. Just as a person cannot breathe in fresh air while holding their breath, you cannot receive new peace while holding on to old suffering. The moment you truly let go, something powerful happens inside you. Your mind becomes quieter, your heart becomes lighter, your awareness becomes clearer. You begin to feel free, not because life is perfect, but because you are no longer emotionally imprisoned by what has already passed. Letting go does not make you weak. Letting go reveals your strength. 7. Rebuilding yourself is the greatest act of self-love. There comes a moment in life when you realize that no one is coming to rebuild you. No one is coming to enter your mind, remove your pain, and transform you into the person you were meant to become. This realization can feel lonely at first, but it is also one of the most powerful awakenings you will ever experience. Because in that moment, you stop waiting. You stop hoping that someone else will save you, and you begin to understand that the responsibility of rebuilding your life belongs to you. The Buddha taught that liberation cannot be given to you by another person. It is something you must discover within yourself through awareness, courage, and letting go. Rebuilding yourself is the greatest act of self-love because it requires you to finally choose yourself. For many years, you may have chosen others over your own peace. You may have stayed in places that weakened you just to avoid being alone. You may have tolerated disrespect because you were afraid of losing connection. You may have ignored your inner voice because you wanted approval. Slowly, without realizing it, you abandoned yourself. You disconnected from your truth in order to hold on to what felt familiar. But rebuilding yourself means reversing that pattern. It means returning to yourself. It means deciding that your peace, your growth, and your truth matter. This process begins with honesty. You must be honest about what is no longer serving you. You must be honest about the habits, the attachments, and the emotional patterns that have been holding you back. The Buddha taught that awareness is the first step toward freedom. Without awareness, you remain trapped in unconscious cycles. You repeat the same behaviors, attract the same experiences, and suffer the same emotional pain. But the moment you become aware, the moment you begin to observe yourself clearly, you create the possibility for change. Rebuilding yourself also requires patience. Many people want instant transformation. They want to wake up one day and feel completely different. They want their pain to disappear immediately. But true transformation is not instant. It is a gradual process. Just as a broken bone takes time to heal and become strong again, your mind and your heart also need time. The Buddha taught that everything in life follows a natural process. Forcing transformation only creates more suffering. But allowing transformation step by step creates lasting change. There will be days when you feel strong and clear, and there will be days when old emotions return. This is part of the process. It does not mean you are failing. It means you are healing. Healing is not a straight path. It moves forward, backward, and forward again. What matters is that you continue. What matters is that you do not return to the version of yourself that abandoned your own peace. Rebuilding yourself also means changing the relationship you have with your mind. For most of your life, your mind may have been filled with self-criticism, fear, and doubt. You may have believed that you were not enough. You may have believed that your past defined your future. But the Buddha taught that the mind can be trained. The mind is not fixed. It is flexible, and it changes based on what you feed it. When you begin to observe your thoughts instead of blindly believing them, you begin to weaken their control over you. You begin to see that thoughts are temporary, emotions are temporary, pain is temporary. They arise and they pass. They do not define your essence. Your essence is the awareness behind all of it. The more you rest in that awareness, the less power your old patterns have over you. Slowly, your mind becomes calmer. Slowly, your inner world becomes more peaceful. Rebuilding yourself also requires letting go of the need for external validation. Many people depend on others to feel valuable. They depend on praise, attention, and approval to feel worthy. But this creates emotional dependence. Your sense of self becomes controlled by how others see you. When they approve of you, you feel strong. When they reject you, you feel broken. This creates instability. The Buddha taught that true peace comes from within, not from the opinions of others. When you rebuild yourself, you stop seeking constant approval. You stop needing everyone to understand you. You stop needing everyone to accept you. You begin to accept yourself. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to stand firmly in your own awareness, regardless of external circumstances. There is also great courage required in rebuilding yourself, because rebuilding yourself often means walking alone for a period of time. It means stepping away from what is familiar. It means releasing attachments that once gave you comfort. It means facing your inner world without distraction. This can feel uncomfortable, but it is necessary. The Buddha himself walked away from comfort, status, and familiarity in order to discover truth. He faced uncertainty, he faced discomfort. But through that process, he found liberation. When you rebuild yourself, you also begin to create a new identity. Not an identity based on pain, fear, or limitation, but an identity based on awareness and truth. You stop seeing yourself as someone who was broken. You begin seeing yourself as someone who awakened. You stop seeing yourself as someone who was rejected. You begin seeing yourself as someone who was redirected. Your perspective changes, and with that change, your entire experience of life begins to change. You also begin to develop inner stability. External events no longer shake you the same way. You understand that everything is temporary. You understand that loss is part of life. You understand that change is natural. This understanding creates emotional freedom. You stop resisting reality. You begin flowing with life instead of fighting against it. The Buddha taught that clinging creates suffering and letting go creates freedom. Rebuilding yourself is an extension of this truth. You release what was never truly yours. You release the illusions, the attachments, and the identities that were built on fear. And in their place, you discover something deeper. You discover your true nature, which was never broken. Your true nature is not your pain. Your true nature is awareness. It is calm, it is present, it is free. The moment you begin rebuilding yourself, you are no longer a prisoner of your past. You are no longer defined by what happened to you. You become the creator of your inner world. You become someone who lives from awareness instead of reaction. You become someone who is grounded, peaceful, and free. Rebuilding yourself is not about becoming someone else. It is about returning to who you were before the world taught you to doubt yourself. It is about removing the layers of fear, attachment, and illusion that covered your true self. And slowly, step by step, you begin to feel something you may not have felt in a long time. Inner peace, not because life is perfect. 8. You are not rebuilding a new self. You are returning to your true nature. One of the greatest misunderstandings people have about transformation is that they believe they must become someone completely new in order to find peace. They believe they must create a different personality, a different identity, or a different version of themselves to finally escape their suffering. But the Buddha taught something much deeper. He taught that transformation is not about becoming someone new. It is about returning to who you truly are, beneath the layers of fear, pain, and illusion that life has placed on you. When you were born, your mind was open, present, and free. You did not carry fear about the future. You did not carry regret about the past. You existed fully in the present moment, but as you grew older, experiences began to shape you. Painful moments left emotional marks. Rejection created insecurity. Loss created fear. Slowly, layer by layer, your mind became conditioned. You began to believe certain things about yourself that were not originally true. You began to believe you were weak, broken, or incomplete. These beliefs became part of your identity. Over time, you stopped seeing yourself clearly. You stopped seeing your true nature. Instead, you saw yourself through the lens of your pain. You saw yourself through your failures, your disappointments, and your emotional wounds. This created a false self, an identity built on past experiences instead of present awareness. The Buddha taught that this false identity is not who you truly are. It is only a collection of thoughts, memories, and emotional patterns. And just as these patterns were created, they can also be released. This is the true meaning of rebuilding yourself. You are not creating something artificial. You are removing what was never truly you. Imagine a clear mirror that has been covered with dust for many years. The mirror itself has not lost its ability to reflect clearly. It has only been covered. The dust represents your fears, your attachments, and your emotional pain. When you begin to let go of these things, you are not creating a new mirror. You are simply cleaning what was already there. Your true self begins to reflect again. This process requires deep awareness. The Buddha taught that awareness is the path to liberation. Awareness allows you to observe your thoughts without becoming controlled by them. It allows you to see your emotional reactions without being consumed by them. When you observe your mind, you begin to realize that your thoughts are not permanent. They come and go. They do not define you. For example, you may have a thought that says, "I am not strong enough in the past." You may have believed this thought immediately. You may have allowed it to shape your behavior and limit your actions. But through awareness, you begin to see that this thought is not truth. It is only a mental pattern. It arises and it passes. When you stop identifying with it, it loses its power. This is how rebuilding truly begins. Not by forcing change, but by releasing identification with what is false. The more you observe your mind, the more distance you create between yourself and your old identity. You begin to see that you are not your fear, you are not your anxiety, you are not your past. You are the awareness that observes all of these things. This realization brings deep freedom, because once you understand that your identity is not fixed, you understand that you are not trapped. You are not limited by what happened to you. You are not defined by your worst moments. You are free to exist in the present moment without being controlled by the past. The Buddha also taught that your true nature is peaceful. Peace is not something you must create. It is something you uncover. It has always been within you, but it became hidden beneath mental noise, emotional pain, and constant attachment. When you begin to let go, the noise becomes quieter, the emotional weight becomes lighter, and peace begins to emerge naturally. This peace does not depend on external circumstances. It does not depend on people, success, or control. It comes from understanding the nature of your mind. It comes from accepting impermanence. It comes from releasing attachment. As you continue this process, you begin to trust yourself more deeply. You stop searching outside for answers. You stop believing that someone else holds the key to your happiness. You realize that everything you need has always been within you. This realization creates inner stability. Life will still bring challenges. Pain will still appear. Loss will still happen. But your relationship with these experiences changes. You no longer see them as threats to your identity. You see them as temporary events that do not define your true nature. You also begin to live with greater presence. Instead of constantly thinking about the past or worrying about the future, you begin to experience the present moment fully. You notice the small details of life. You feel more connected to yourself and to existence itself. This presence brings a sense of calm that cannot be shaken easily. The Buddha taught that liberation is not about escaping life. It is about seeing life clearly. It is about understanding that your true nature has never been damaged. It was only hidden. Rebuilding yourself is the process of remembering this truth. It is the process of removing the illusions that made you forget who you are. It is the process of returning home to yourself. And when you finally return, you realize something that changes everything. You were never broken. You were only asleep, and now you are awake. There comes a moment in every person's life when they can no longer continue living as the old version of themselves. The pain becomes too heavy. The emotional exhaustion becomes too real. The inner voice becomes too loud to ignore. In that moment, you stand at a powerful turning point. You can either continue holding on to what is familiar and remain trapped in the same cycle, or you can make the courageous decision to let go and rebuild yourself from within. The Buddha taught that suffering is not the end of your story. Suffering is the beginning of your awakening. Every painful experience you went through was not meant to destroy you, but to help you see clearly. It helped you see what was never meant to stay. It helped you see the attachments, the illusions, and the identities that were holding you back. It helped you realize that your peace was never meant to depend on anything outside of you. Letting go is not weakness. Letting go is wisdom. It is the moment you stop fighting reality. It is the moment you stop trying to force what no longer belongs in your life. It is the moment you stop chasing what was never aligned with your true nature. When you let go, you do not lose yourself. You find yourself. Rebuilding yourself is not about becoming someone artificial or pretending to be strong. It is about returning to your true nature, the part of you that was never broken, the part of you that was always calm, aware, and whole. It is about releasing the emotional weight you were never meant to carry forever. It is about freeing your mind from the past so you can finally live fully in the present. This journey requires patience. It requires awareness. It requires courage. There will be moments when you feel uncertain. There will be moments when you feel alone. But these moments are part of your transformation. They are helping you detach from illusions and reconnect with truth. The Buddha taught that everything in life is temporary. Pain is temporary. Loss is temporary. Even the version of you that is suffering right now is temporary. What remains is your awareness. What remains is your ability to grow, to heal, and to rebuild. You are not your past. You are not your pain. You are not the person you used to be. You are the awareness that has the power to let go. You are the strength that has the power to rebuild. You are the peace that has been waiting to be rediscovered. And the moment you truly let go is the moment your true transformation begins.